Good afternoon. My name is Seafood Dave Charlesworth from KAJUKENBO Napoli in Naples, Italy. Today I want to discuss some self-defense tactics apart from the techniques that you may use in a street fight. But before I get into any of this, I'd like to say thank you for checking out my channel, and I hope you like the content. If so, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to my channel. I really do appreciate your support. It helps to support my school. Now let's get started. The streets can be a dangerous and a very unforgiving place. Unlike competition, there are no rules. There is no referee to break things up when they go too far, and mistakes can have some pretty serious, if not deadly, consequences. The best thing you can do is to avoid the confrontation altogether. Most criminals who want to separate you from your hard-earned cash are looking for an easy target and really do not want to have to work hard or put themselves at risk to get your valuables. Now, what's this mean? It means they select their target based off the confidence level that they can get what they want with the least amount of risk and possibility of consequence. What do they look for in a mark? They're for someone who is alone, someone who's distracted, weak, impaired, or otherwise unable to defend themselves. They want a good payout as well, so they'll look for someone who presents as if they have what they're looking for, which in most cases is hard-earned cash. So before we even get to the threat, what can we do to discourage attack in the first place? Let's talk about what can be done before we go out. Think about how you present yourself to a would-be attacker. How are you dressed? Are you wearing a $1,000 outfit? Do you have an expensive watch on your wrist and can it be seen? What other expensive jewelry are you wearing and is it visible? Do you have the latest $1,000 iPhone and you're carrying it in your hand in plain view? Do you have an expensive designer purse? What kind of car are you driving? These are just a few examples, and the list can go on and on. Now, I'm not saying you can't have nice things and wear and use them too. Just be aware that they may contribute to the amount of attention that you attract, and you may want to think about the ways that you can minimize the exposure, or at least when walking down the street after parking your car or getting out of the cab on your way to the club, restaurant, or even to your job if you're required to look the part. Now think about the location you're going to. What neighborhood is it in? Is it a good area? Is it known for having high crime rates? Do you know the area? Are you going alone? Are you meeting someone? Are you going with friends? Now there is something to say about safety in numbers. Okay, now you're on your way and you're out in the wild. Arguably, one of the most important skill sets in self-defense is having and continue to develop your ability to have a high level of situational awareness. If you can spot the threat before the situation gets to the point of having to physically defend yourself, now isn't that better? As I stated previously, attackers want an easy target. They look for those who are distracted. Try to keep your eyes open. Scan your surroundings for possible threats. Pay attention to body language. Are you being noticed? Does someone make eye contact? Once you pass, does someone follow? If you stop, do they stop? If you go into a shop, do they lurk outside and wait for you to exit? Now, this may just be someone working up to the courage to ask you for your number, or maybe it's something more sinister. Can you notice this type of behavior if you're on your cell phone or texting? Now, another thing you want to be able to do is listen to your surroundings. This may be hard to do if you've got headphones on or you're talking on your phone, especially if you're using earbuds. This is especially useful to detect groups of kids or gangs looking for trouble before you're in range. Or maybe, if you're listening, you might even hear someone say, hey, how about this one? If you hear a motorbike coming up fast, it may be an attempt to separate you from your purse or your bag, or to just get the jump on you. I know it almost sounds like a paranoid behavior, but learning to recognize this type of behavior may stop the threat before it actually happens. In fact, sometimes just recognizing someone's presence may deter the threat. You may have even experienced this without knowing it, just because you were aware. Have you ever heard the expression, nothing good ever happens after midnight? Been out having fun dancing, drinking, and having a good time? Well, whether you've been drinking or not, people tend to drop their guard after a fun-filled evening and are just tired and want to go home. Criminals know this, and it makes you an easy target. Again, an unaware target is easy pickings. Nighttime in general is a preferred time of day for the shadow warrior lurking to score your belongings. Attempt to park in well-lit and well-lighted areas and not in secluded areas. Make light, more light and more people are often your allies in most cases. In some cases, even in the light of day, if you're alone, it's a good time for a would-be attacker to attempt to separate you from your wallet. Now, I can give you a personal example. When I was younger and I was in the Navy, I was working a part-time job at a sports bar in San Diego as a bouncer. And I ended up riding the train back one night to the shipyard where my ship was at probably about 1:30 in the morning. Well, it seems like Navy bases and shipyards are always in a bad part of town. I got off the train, and I immediately noticed an unsavory-looking individual looking at me. I glanced at him, and he began walking in the direction that I needed to go. Glancing to my left, I noticed that he had begun to follow me. I kept moving, and I picked up my pace and making sure to keep an eye on him as he seemed to be getting closer. Still in the vicinity of the train station, I turned around, and I looked at him, and he stopped. I turned around again and started walking, noting that he too continued behind me. I stopped again, and I said loud enough so that people at the train station could probably still hear me, "What do you want? I hope you're not looking for trouble." He crossed the street, and I kept walking. He paralleled me on the other side of the street. I knew he was up to no good. He probably thought I was a drunk sailor returning to my ship after a night out drinking and was looking to knock me over the head and take my wallet. There was a section of train tracks that crossed the road and headed directly for the gate of the shipyard that he'd have no reason to follow me down unless he was after me. I cut down the tracks as it looked clear, and it was only about 100 yards to the next road, and the gate was maybe another 30 yards down that road. I kept checking my rear as he watched me from the other side of the road until I disappeared inside the gate. He never moved, just watched. In this case, I must have made it pretty clear I was not an easy target, and that I was ready and willing if he wanted to try me. I can't tell you how many times that I heard this scenario run differently in the same location. Apparently, drunk sailors are easy targets. In this case, my acknowledgement of his presence, and probably my physical size, was enough to prevent his attack. Had I been unaware, or just let it be, it probably would have, more than likely, ended much differently. Or maybe, but unlikely, he just thought I was some crazy bastard and he was just on his way home too. But I just had that feeling. I think my version of the story is probably correct. Now, the area of this story is pretty well secluded and not well lit, and there was not a better route unless I headed right for him when I got off the train, but I'd already suspected him because of the way that he looked at me when I got off the train. Too many people can also be a great cover for a quick snatch and run, so don't be complacent just because there's a lot of people around you and think you're safe. In fact, it's a great cover for the pickpocket. Even if you feel contact, can you tell who bumped into you and took your wallet? So you've done your best, and yet you find yourself in a confrontation of some kind. Now what? Can you de-escalate the situation? Well, in a robbery situation, chances are the only thing that will de-escalate the situation is you giving up your belongings and waiting for the weapon to be in your face is entirely too late. As in the situation I just shared, it may be possible, but I was ready for it to go way south. It's decision time, and it's all about your assessment of the threat and your confidence in your ability to counter that threat. It's go or no go. Hopefully you've done a good job keeping situational awareness and you know your battle space. If you decide it's time to go, then you must not hesitate and attack decisively with violence of action until the threat is neutralized, trusting in your technique and in your training. Once the threat is neutralized, leave quickly and be on alert for further threats. You can call the police if you feel the need to from a safer place. Now, it's important to note there is a clear distinction between a simple confrontation and a robbery or a violent assault, such as sexual assault or a rape situation, where you are literally possibly fighting for your survival. The latter scenario being more serious with a higher level of violence being leveled by both parties. A simple dispute in a bar or on a street corner should be met with an appropriate level of violence with possible de-escalation attempt prior to going hands-on. The de-escalation attempt serves two purposes. First, it allows for the out prior to the necessary violence that's sure to follow. And secondly, it protects you, the trained martial artist, in the event that there are possible legal consequences from your actions during the self-defense encounter. While personal opinion may reason that de-escalation is not necessary and gives too much opportunity to the attacker, the laws may differ, and depending on your physical location, this is why it may be important to know what those laws are. But this is only a consideration. If your life is in danger, there should be no question as to your rapid and violent response. Now, we live in a world that includes some pretty horrific things, and being prepared to face them is becoming increasingly more important. School or mall shootings unfortunately do happen, as well as terror attacks. Picking up on suspicious behavior may be the one thing that separates you from being a victim or being a survivor. Now, one could argue that unless you are yourself are armed, there's little that you can do. Now, I disagree, especially if it's yet to happen. Be aware of your surroundings. If you see someone suspicious, you can choose to put some space between you and them. How often do you see somebody at a mall or a school with a gun case or a bag that's big enough to hold a rifle, or let alone walking in with a rifle? If you see someone that meets this description, maybe err on the side of caution and get the heck out of there before it starts. In any case, today's world would indicate that researching what to do in an active shooter scenario is something that you should do and may be a topic of a future video. How can we do all this? By having good situational awareness of your surroundings and taking steps to avoid potential problems before they become problems in the first place. But that does not always work, so we must and need to be prepared for when things get serious and be confident in our ability to face those threats. You must also be cautious not to get tunnel vision just because you've identified the threat. That doesn't mean there aren't any other threats lurking around you. So keep your head on a swivel, keep on training, make it realistic so that when you get out there and you have to face a threat like this, you're prepared. So I hope that you may learn something from the experience that I shared with you. And I hope that you make a point of working on looking at the details, as you may just prevent something from happening to you. Always be prepared, and if you sense something is wrong, act on those senses before it's too late. If you find yourself in a situation where violence is necessary, violence of action is key. Don't let your would-be attacker have the opportunity to do you harm or even think about his next move. You eliminate the threat and get out of there as quickly as possible. Talking trash only gives them more opportunity to get the upper hand. I hope you enjoyed this content. If so, please take a moment to visit my YouTube channel. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate your support, and doing so allows me to spend my time making these videos and helps me to support my school. Thanks again, and mahalo.